Association.
We are live. Welcome to the first WFA podcast, Bump and Roll, with myself, Andy C, and
Tommy D.
in the place to be, breakdance to Scooby-Doo on the loo doing a poo. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm all right. So we thought about doing this for a while, which we're actually doing it now in our professional setup studio that's definitely not in a cold warehouse.
Definitely not. No.
Definitely not in a cold
I
warehouse.
just like to keep my hoodie on indoors.
Yeah, exactly. So if we start sweating, the heating's come up a little bit.
Good.
So what we're here to do, we're going to talk about flair. It's going to be fairly unscripted, but we have got one topic that we're going to get stuck into. Of course, for those of you that don't know, I'm one of the co-founders of the WFA, and so is Tom, until he did one. And Tommy D is,
Not much.
one of the world's best flair bartenders in the world. In the world, ever.
In the world. Flat world or round world?
Listen, let's not get into the debate of that. If you're one of these flat earther kind of people, you can disappear right now. Okay. Right, so we're going to get stuck into it. We have got a big topic that we're going to talk about, which I know a lot of people like to mention, maybe moan about, maybe have an opinion, okay? But the main opinion that counts is the ones of these people when it comes to competitions.
Because they're the ones being paid to do the job.
Yeah, and we'll get onto that pet thing as well. Judging.
Judging. Do you know what? You mentioned that people complain about it. Well, be careful.
I'm already smashing the setup.
People complain about it. As you know, we started to write a book, and we spoke to John Mezcal, I don't think it was John actually, but some of the early day flair bartenders in a competition. And one of the interviews we had, one of the guys said, "Oh yeah, I entered that competition. I come second, but I should have come first."
Right.
So even from the very, very early days of competitions,
Yeah.
People are not always agreeing with the judges. And it's going to happen.
I think it's with anything that's you're doing. I mean, there's always the conversation of whether it's a sport. I've always struggled to call bartending a sport because it's bartending, flair bartending. I call it an art form. But any kind of sport, performance art, there's always someone that's got to say how good or how bad you are.
Yeah.
And these competitors, be it in whatever they do, train their asses off constantly, and for them someone to sit down and go, "I don't think you're as good as you think you are,"
Exactly,
is a pretty bitter pill to take. So I do understand it. I must admit, when I was judging back in the day, I don't judge that many competitions nowadays. I did judge Food Town Flair last year over in Poland, in Tomek Malik, if you're watching.
Happening again this year, apparently.
It is happening.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be later on in the
June.
year. No.
Was it March last year?
It was March last year, but I think it's going to be November. I think. I don't know. So just when it's lovely and warm to go to Poland.
Freezing snow.
It's minus 15 at the moment, just so you know. And it was, it's always been, it's a difficult job. It's a difficult job judging competitions. And it's not very well rewarded in regards to, the financial gains of it. It tends to be people that are passionate about flair bartending. But also, there's no credit goes towards a judge, really. You kind of, if you do an all right result, they go, yeah, the results.
Yeah, when they get the results right, they don't go, "Do you know what? The judging was immaculate."
Yeah, it was amazing.
You should have seen them write down on that bit of paper.
But if it's wrong,
oh,
they don't agree with it because whose opinion is it wrong in? Because I bet the guy that wins the competition doesn't go, "You know what? I shouldn't have won that competition."
Yeah.
It's always a bit of a thankless task, I should always say.
Definitely a thankless task.
And I think with judging and judges that are around the world, there is a lack of good judges. I do think there are people in the world that can do it, but are probably not coming forward to do it. Maybe because they feel like if they put themselves out in the open, that they're going to be lambasted. I remember when we did the Roadhouse that year, wasn't it the last Roadhouse?
No, I think it was 2018.
And we tried doing an open chat with Tony Adams, to talk about
earlier
the
even. I think it was like 2017 even.
Yeah. And again, Tony was put on the spot, being asking questions. But I think as a good judge, of course, you need to know flair. You need to know flair. You need to know what you're looking for. But you also need to have that confidence and that, that kind of, this is what I believe in, and to be able to back up your answers.
Because flair, there's no. The thing is there's no black and white really when it comes to judging. How good is your creativity? You can't say, well, it's definitely 47 points.
Yeah.
It's always the opinion of the 3 or 4 or 5 people that are sitting on that table.
Yeah.
And as a competitor, when you go to a competition and you see who your judges are going to be, because normally you pretty much know who they're going to be when the rules come out, you need to accept the fact that those 3 people are going to be judging you based on their opinions.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with them or not, unfortunately, is irrelevant.
So let's talk about your past and what you thought about judges when you prepared for competitions. And did you look at the judges at all to think who's judging this competition?
Do you know what? Not as much as what I would do now.
Yeah.
Now I'm a bit older and wiser and understand that different judges look for different things. So what I did think about a little bit was when I was competing in Europe and being judged by UK European judges, compared to when I was competing in America, when I was being judged by the likes of Jim Allison, Mike McLean, and American judges, I knew that I'm going to be judged differently. Because the Americans, they're looking more for like a juggling style, and the Europeans are a non-juggling style. So I knew that going over to America, I'm going to struggle a lot more to get the points that I want to get, as opposed to in Europe. I know that when I do my routine, there's a chance that I'm going to be scored a little bit higher.
Okay.
I never changed my routine according to it. I never started juggling or anything.
I was going to say then, so because I know that guys, they'll look at the scoring system. The top guys, the top professionals will look at the scoring system and think, right, where can I maximise on these points? But you're also saying that they should maybe look at the judges at the same time or not?
I mean, when you get right down into the brass tacks of it, I think definitely the scoring system.
Yeah,
you have
100%.
You have to look at that, and I think a lot of competitors these days don't look at the scoring system, where some of them could really score a lot more points based on what the scores are,
right,
or where they can score the points. They should also be looking at the competition in general. Where is it? The people that they're going to be performing for, the location, the venue, to make sure that their music, their show, their performance is going to fit that culture, that crowd.
Yeah.
I know Christian Delpech used to do that. When he came over to Roadhouse, he would change his music to something a bit more sort of techno-y, dancey, housey, as opposed to always, he used Ricky Martin, like
Latin-based. Yeah.
But then also the judges. Like now, if you know who's judging you, you should have a kind of understanding of what they may or may not be looking for.
Okay.
So changing your routine for the judges, you shouldn't have to.
No.
You shouldn't have to.
I mean, my thoughts on it are the scoring system is there for the judges to follow. Okay. And how the judges interpret what's on stage, for example, originality, creativity, whatever they want to go for, whatever they want to interpret that form, what they're seeing in front of them, they should be guided by the scoring system.
Yeah.
The question then comes up, okay, for example, originality is always, a bit of a bone of contention, because who's to say that that is the most original move? Because you can't see everything across the world at one time. There's no oracle. There's no ChatGPT of flair that would turn around and say, I know absolutely every move that's going on at the moment, So that is a challenge. So you've got to know your history on it, with a lot of stuff that's going on. So I think that's super important for judges.
Yeah.
Know your history, know what's come before,
Yeah.
know that, maybe some new moves coming out, you can go back and say, actually, I did see that in, the early 2000s or someone doing that. And you've kind of just upgraded it, which is cool, but it's not completely original.
But what about if, because I know that there's some people, there's new generation flair bartenders.
Yeah.
I get shown moves all the time by different people, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's Sylvain Glatini, that's Raphael, and they're like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah,
like,
they don't know them.
They don't know who it is. So that we're getting a kind of a repetition, that cycle of moves that are coming back. So it's like, is that still original because they didn't know who it is? Or... This is going down a rabbit hole.
You could go down a huge rabbit hole. I suppose that's why we spent on the YouTube channel, okay, which is what we're on at the moment, the WFA YouTube channel. We spent a lot of time digitizing old videos, trying to get old routines out. So there's kind of a library there.
Yeah.
There's a library that you can spend time looking through. Now, I don't know if you can spare the next 10 years if you're watching
flair videos
to look through flair videos, but you can maybe pick out a few key people to watch and see what's been done before. It might help you, it might think, right, that has been done before. It might set you a new way of thinking when it comes to originality.
Yeah.
But again, it comes back down to those judges and having that know-how and what they've got about it. So the question being on it, which I've been posed before, which is, do judges need to be ex-competitors? First question.
No.
No, they don't. Okay. There you go.
Question.
That's the answer to that.
Next question. No.
Okay.
Can I go back quickly to the scoring system?
Yeah, if you want.
Because one thing which I think gets missed from judges to competitors is the understanding of the scoring system and what the judges are looking for.
Okay.
Because you've got 30 people. 30 people.
30 people.
30 people.
Tom counts for that in 30.
30 people.
Well, clever.
Right? That's 8 anyway. So,
Brilliant.
So anyway, you've got competitors in a competition, quite a number of them, who read the rules, hopefully, and then they're going to interpret choreography, originality, difficulty in their way, unless they read the description of what's on the WFA website, or they read the description. And then the judges are also going to understand it in their way. Now, obviously, there's a briefing before competitions where that should be discussed and kind of spoken about.
Okay, briefing.
Hang on, wait.
All right, go on.
Hang on, but I still think there needs to be a better understanding of those scoring systems. Like when it comes to difficulty, for example, obviously if you do a really difficult individual move, that's difficult. But if you're doing tough moves to the music, that's very difficult. If you're putting together a sequence of moves that are really nice and creative, I believe that's also difficult. So there's different ways to get
tough moves to music, yes. I will put that more about your showmanship kind of sector, because you're nailing it to the beat, okay? Right. So that's where I would mark them up. So yeah, there might be tough moves, okay, which you're going to get some for maybe your difficulty, but I'm going to pile that onto my showmanship because you've thought about the routine and you've smashed it in. Oh. Hello? What's going on? Have we got no audio? No. This is Dan, by the way. You might see this figure coming up. No audio coming through. Oh, are we out of audio? We've got a whole team by us, by the way. You know, they're all in the background. Also, hello, if you can hear us. Are we back? What was it? Interference.
We're going to start again, guys.
Yeah, so basically this is the Bump and Roll podcast. Obviously, we're not going to start again. Apologies to anyone out there that was having a problem with the audio.
But I think, look, right there's a slight difference in how we look at difficulty. I'll definitely do the same thing. Like if there's difficult moves going to music, your showmanship and your choreography, we're going to score points. But I think it's more difficult to go do to the music instead of someone going and just kind of dancing to the music. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's still showmanship on both of them, but one's more difficult than the other.
Agreed. So you're gonna score well in both.
You're going to score well in, exactly.
Okay, cool. So going back to that, when you talk about the briefing, and we'll get back to whether you should be an ex-competitor, and you can elaborate on your one-word answer. But if we're going back to the briefing and you talk about it and how, and I know when I do briefings at Borley, for example, and if we were to open up the can of worms and say originality and start going into a really big explanation of it, I think you'll be there for a very, very long time. Yeah. Trying to cover that. We could do a whole podcast just on originality, coming soon. But I think when you're doing a briefing on it to try and explain to competitors what you're looking for, you can't. You can't just sit there as a judge and say, right, I think this is original. I think that's original. Of course. Because then you're going to get so many questions. Always turn your phone off when you're doing anything online. I think you're going to end up getting into you're going to get into a debate. You don't want to be a debate, You want to trust that, hey, guys, whatever you think is original and what we're looking for, the guys are going to be looking for original moves, You think you know what's original. Let's see where it comes out on stage, as it were. Sure. When you talk about difficulty, you can maybe get a little bit more into that, because difficulty, it could be if you're doing a shadow and you're doing a reverse grab to a grab like this, then you're going to score more this way than you would the other way, basically. If they're a strong right-hander, but you see a lot of work going on with the left at the same time, you're like, okay, that's difficult because you're using both rather than just your strong hand. Sure. So there's things that you can drop into that. Yeah. But when you're doing a briefing, you ain't got time,
It's
really.
too late for that explanation.
I suppose, yeah, because they've already got the routines. They know what they're going to do.
Like
no?
that whole explanation. I mean, this is just throwing something out there, just completely off on a whim. But
A whim.
a whim.
Whim.
Like you guys, WFA have explanations on originality, difficulty, and choreography on the site. Perhaps all competitors must need to acknowledge of reading those explanations.
Yeah.
Have it more detailed there and say, if you want to compete in this competition, you have to acknowledge that you've read this explanation on how we look at and judge originality.
Yeah.
So that every competitor, whether they just go, yeah, okay, cool, terms and conditions, click. Well, you've said
most of them do that.
Most of them will do that.
Not most of them. Not any, in fact.
All of them.
Yeah.
No. But you if you acknowledge that you've read that, and if you are a competitor, if you go through and read that, then everyone is going to be on a much more level playing field. The only problem is, and this is such a dichotomy, because they go, well, it says on your website that you look for this, and now you're telling me this, because it's such a subjective thing to be judging.
First of all, dichotomy, big, if we can get a big word bonus round in here, that Tom's in there with that. No, you're right, because it was, again, and it doesn't happen much, I noticed it earlier, is that some of the top guys would drill down on those rules and would be like, hey, it says this, and this, and it was box ticking, well, I'm doing exactly what you said.
That's why we went for 10 out of 10 eventually, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it kind of leaves it open, and that's why with the scoring system, we've tried all manner of different varied ways of this, that, super big long ones. But then you're almost kind of structuring around for them to say, do it this way.
Yeah.
You open yourself up to people kind of putting similar routines together.
True.
You open yourself up to, people, just going, well, I've done this, and this, and you're going to back me on that. And it becomes then an exercise of almost doing a WFA grading.
Yeah.
Which you don't want to do. The WFA grading is there just to get your
segue.
Wasn't it WFA grade? It was good, that, wasn't it?
That was good.
God. We can edit it, yeah. So you need to keep it open. That's why we kind of, not dumb down the scoring system, but it gives the bartenders flexibility to interpret the rules in their own, but these are the guidelines. These are the main things that we're looking for, because that's what we believe gives the best possible routine on stage for the crowd.
So that means it goes back to the original thing of you've got to just trust that the judges who are judging are going to score you correctly.
Exactly.
And if you don't agree with it, then tough shit.
Yeah.
Basically. No, it is.
So talking on that, so now we're back to the judges. Yeah, we've kind of talked a little bit about the scoring system. We're back to the judges, which we wanted to talk about. And with the judges, you did a recent blog post about it, and I've had numerous conversations, not recently, but over the years, constantly about judging. I've been a judge. People have said, I'm a really good judge. People have said that I'm probably not a good judge. People have got different opinions, We said, and some bartenders have said, well, they need to be ex-competitors. And you said in your blog recently, no, they don't.
No.
And you just said it about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Why don't they need to be ex-competitors?
I think that evidence of people such as Tony Adams and Timper Nissinen.
Yeah.
I know you used to compete, but you didn't compete for very long.
No. I think Tony competed at TGI Friday World Finals.
He did Roadhouse a couple of times, did TGI Fridays for finals.
They've got an understanding of the stage.
They've got an understanding, but they weren't like heavy competitors. They're not able to do 3, 4, 5 objects like you see on stage. So but like you three, in my opinion, have a good understanding of what the Dennis and Alex and everyone else is doing. And when you've watched that much flair, then you get, I think you see it a lot more. You see the left hand being used when it should be, when they're normally using the right hand. You see the technical differences between one move and another move. And there's a better understanding just from sheer experience of watching so much flair. Of course, if you just bring Joe Nobody off from the street and say, right, go and judge that, they're not going to have a clue of what's going on.
Yeah.
So someone who isn't an ex-competitor and wants to judge a competition has to have some level of understanding beforehand and some level of training or experience watching flair in another way somehow.
Okay. I mean, I'm obviously in the camp of I've competed a couple of times on stage and I've done bits and pieces. I quickly realised that, okay, that's not my forte, but I love this, I love flair bartending. It was something that's given me a great life, off the back of it and what we do, and it's given me amazing opportunities, experiences, purely just for the passion that I've got for it, And when it comes to judging, and I really enjoyed the judging aspect of it, and I didn't mind, and you'll know because we've worked together, I don't mind putting my opinions forward on stuff, and I'll stand behind them, and I'll probably argue till blue in the face. As I've got older, I've sometimes realised that, okay, and you learn, you progress as you mature and all that kind of stuff. I'm still maturing at the age of 48. That's right, I'm 48. And you start to learn and take on, the bits and pieces of other people, and maybe not. You should have been so out there with everything, saying this is the way and that's not the way, basically. But I think as a judge, you have to have conviction in what you're putting the scores on it, and stand there and say, this is what I think of you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
What do you think are the main, not just even the knowledge of flair, what do you think judges need to be in regards to characteristics? What kind of person do you need to be?
You've got to be honest.
Yeah.
You've got to have, what's the technical word for, you've got to have, not confidence, but I suppose confidence may be it. Like, for example, some people, including myself, I know, have been judged according to what the judges know they can do.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe somebody goes up on stage and doesn't have the best round, but they're like, we know that in the final he's going to do much better. And then they end up subconsciously maybe giving more points, or they just give more points. What's the word for that? To basically turn around and say, no, you were shit, I'm marking you lower.
Do you know what? I've always been like that. I know when I've judged you before in the past, you've got to judge. And again, you say this in your blog. And I've always said it, you judge what's in front of you. You don't judge the name. I'm not judging Tom Dyer. I'm judging bartender number 23.
Exactly.
Or whatever it may be, And then that is super important, because I do think in the past and in certain places, people go, you've not been that great, but we know you can do something once you get through to the finals. There was probably one of my best moments in flair, what I've seen and witnessed, which, again, is probably another podcast, was King of the Ring pieces. First one. King of the Ring, and Nicholas came across. Remember, it was all there. It was you, and everything.
Andre Fiore, Maestro Matteo,
exactly.
Neil Garner, Neil Lowry, Stretch,
yeah. Flo,
Adriano Marcelino. Flo didn't make it. Stretch was there. Flo didn't make it.
No, didn't make the final.
No, he couldn't come to the comp.
He didn't, did he?
Anyway.
It's a long time ago. But anyway, on that, when we all knew that Nicholas had the talent to be able to win it, and we thought, okay, he's really got to win it. But he did his qualifiers.
It was poo.
He qualified in 7th, didn't he?
Yeah, I think
it was very close.
But no, there was 20 went through to the final. Don't you remember?
No, I don't remember.
I think he actually qualified in 8th, but 20, there was, was it 20 or 12? But yeah, there was prizes for top 20.
Okay.
I'm not sure if 20 went through to the final.
But it was very kind of, and I judged him because I knew he could do better on it. And I was thinking, you're going to struggle to make the finals on that routine. There was a slight arrogance.
Yeah.
I'll show. And listen, that arrogance paid off, because when he smashed the finals out, it's probably one of the best routines. Well, not the best routines I've seen, but just what it stood for was just wow. It was really good. I get goosebumps thinking about it. Goosebump alert. But anyway, going back to that, and how judges have got to be confident and not judging the name. And not giving them those extra points just because, he's, maybe a gold level WFA, or he's been on the leaderboard, or he's a black level or purple level. Again, put it in there. So it's not a Dennis or a Michael, or it's a Roman, or even guys like Eric Yu that have come across that we know what he can do, and we've seen on Instagram sometimes what he can do, and you really want him to land it because you want him to make the final. But then he doesn't. You're like, I really want to see if he can do it in the final. But you can't. You've got to judge what's in front of you.
You have to. Yeah. And as a judge, so one of the characteristics of judging is being able to do that.
Yeah. And
confidently stand by it, so that people go, why didn't you play? Why is Dennis, or why is Michael, why is this person not in the final? Because they didn't land it on the day, And that's one of the things of judging, which becomes really difficult because people ask you questions of why. I'm like, well, because it's my job to basically do the right thing and judge it correctly, so that the people who did the best job on the day make the finals, and the people who didn't don't.
Now, with that and with judges, and it's always a question why. Can you talk to me about my scores? And we've always said this is that
no.
Well, you can. And I've always been more than well. I would even approach when I see someone a little bit annoyed, and I feel like it's our duty of care to go up and say, are you okay with it? You know, blah, blah. But then it could get to a situation if you've got 30, 40 competitors and they all want, you know, feedback. 10 minutes explanation, you know, of their routine. And when you're starting judging a competition, and of course we try and seed it as they go up, so they're the beginning guys, and they need valuable input because they're the new generation coming through. When you were starting, you were at the bottom, and you build your way up, and that's just the way it goes. So the guys now at the bottom, 5-10 years time, whatever it may be, they're going to be up into the finals, and that's hopefully how the generations just keep coming. You know,
some of them haven't, but hopefully most of them.
No, but not all of them will. Not everyone who starts at the beginning is going to end up winning the competition. That's just the way the competition works. You know what I mean? It's not. Well, I've been doing this 10 years. Was my first prize? Yeah. You know, that, well, like that. But I've got my train of thought on it now. What I was talking about. But it's taking the time. It's taking the time and the feedback to give it to them. You can't spend 10, 15 minutes with 40 competitors going through it, and nor can you as a judge, when you're starting, overly remember the starting routines. You tend to get towards the finals and you're like, right, and that's more fresh in your head. You've just watched 8 hours of flair. The first hour, you kind of like, okay, I look at the scores, I can see my notes, I kind of know what kind of sections you did, what items you did. Okay, but can I remember it completely and know where I, you know, put it down? That's a tough job, really tough job. And I find it when I'm judging, and I've judged in the past, sometimes the starting one's sometimes a little bit easier. It's the mid-range. Mid-range where you're like, oh.
Everyone's kind of in that similar kind of level.
Yeah.
And I find just when you talk about taking notes, I went through a stage of, you know, okay, they started bottle tin working flair, BTW. And if they dropped it, put a little counter in there, and you had all these shorthand, and you were like constantly going like this, and you lose focus. I lost focus on the routine.
Yeah.
And too much focused on the notes.
Well, what I used to do, and sometimes I used to change my thing, but I'd do the same thing, but I'd write FB tin, so full bottle tin, which I know is working flair, stroke BT, blah, blah. And then if I saw something cool, I'd put a mark on the top. And if it was something that was a mistake, not necessarily a drop, but a mistake, a fumble,
a hand,
something, the hand, Tomic. Won't like that, will it? The hand, you know what I mean? I would put, you know, a negative mark on it, and it would help me kind of remember. I look back, oh yeah, because it did that, and it just gives me something to be able to back up my scores with, you know, to say you didn't do this, this, and this, or I liked the way that you did blah 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 X, Y, and Z, you know. But again, coming down to it at the end and trying to explain all that to competitors at the end of it is a bloody hugely tricky job.
Yeah.
Which is why there's probably not many judges that are out there at the moment and willing to come forward. What's your thought on that? Do you think there is a bigger pool of people out there that can come forward and say, do you know what? I've got enough experience in this industry and I'm willing to come and judge.
Loads.
Yeah?
Loads of people.
Do you think there's enough of them coming
forward? There's so much like... there's not enough people coming forward because there's so many older flair bartenders from previous generations that the newer generations don't know about, who are kind of coming out the woodwork a little bit. Neil Garner, Francesco Leone, Rafael Arce, and dipping their toes back into flair a little bit more.
Yeah.
But there's so many more that have just kind of not bothered to get back involved in giving back to the judging, organising, or any kind of flair world.
So I've got a couple of reasons why I think this might be the case.
I've got to take some notes quickly.
Have you? Well, because you're thinking of stuff while I'm talking that you want to talk about. I know.
Yeah.
Okay. And a couple of things is, as people get older, their responsibilities get more. Okay. So if you're a flair bartender in your 20s, you're traveling around the world, everything's great, you're winning prize money, you live in hand to mouth. You know, you don't care. As long as you win that next competition or pull a shift and you've got enough to pay for your next flight, I'm going. because it's all an experience and it's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you get older, being a flair bartender on the competition circuit, and you realise you've got to take some time out from something that's paying your mortgage, your kids, your bills, whatever it may be, you might kind of go, I can't fly around the world doing this now. I'm taking so much time out. I need to think about, I'm not getting any younger. Whereas old school flair bartenders, or the older generation that tend to be older in age, they've got financial commitments in regards to they've got jobs that they need to keep down. They've got families, they've got kids, all that kind of stuff. And when someone turns around to them and says, hey, can you fly over and do this competition? You know, they might really want to do it because they're still passionate about flair, but they're not going to fly halfway across the world, take 4 days out of work for €200.
Exactly.
So then we've got a problem in regards to budgets towards judges.
Exactly.
And what we should allocate for them.
Exactly.
Now at Borley, we got a certain budget, you know, and they do it for that budget. But they would earn a lot more working, doing something.
Yeah.
You know, they're taking time out, but they're passionate about it, and it's not taking too much of their time out, you know. So you've got to value that commitment. Really got to value that commitment on it. But going forwards, do we need to start allocate? We're not back to the days of the 2000 where we're giving 10 grand prize money and blah blah, all that kind of stuff. But we're getting slowly.
It's gonna be there.
Do we need to start thinking and putting a significant budget on these judges so they're paid properly for what they're doing?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's easy for me to say yes because I would definitely be somebody more active in judging this year. And it's always nice to be rewarded for your time off from your normal job and your normal work. And I mean, I give hats off to Luca Valentin, who's judging quite a lot and probably traveling a lot and probably getting paid not always that great amount of money, you know, because I mean, he's quite a big deal in his own country and probably gets paid pretty well. Yeah. So that's someone who's really extremely passionate about it and really giving back to I've just written down here, the sport, which, you know, you said is difficult to say that flair bartending is a sport. I was on the same, just a little segue, I was on the same like side as you, that I don't think it's a sport, but I think it's an art, and I think it's both, because at the end of the day,
it's a sporty art. It's a sport. It's a sport. Flair bartending is a sport. Okay.
But to the level of which we're talking about judging and the prize money that goes towards all these competitions and everything else, and it's a sport. It's the amount of time and effort competitors are putting in, it's a sport, which means the people judging, it needs to be thought about a lot more. And yes, I think the budgets for competitions, judging or the judges, there should be a bigger budget for what they get paid. There should be, because normally when you're a judge in a competition, you're going to have a meeting beforehand. Yeah. You need to kind of fresh up on your history of flair and watch some videos and go to the WFA YouTube channel database and watch some old school videos of some of the current competitors, older competitors, whatever. You've got to do the briefing and all that stuff that you said earlier. So
not on the podcast, but when we're having a pre-meeting about it.
But but do all the stuff as a judge would, in terms of being involved in the competition. It's not just 8 hours of judging or more sometimes. Yeah. It's the weeks beforehand leading up to it, the communications, the day, the briefing, and then can you give me advice on my routines? I remember once after Flair Mania, I must have sent 15 write-ups of different bartenders' routines, like minute by minute of their routines, because they wanted feedback on how they did. Yeah. So I think there needs to be more focus put onto judging if we want the sport of flair bartending to grow and to become more professional, and for flair bartenders to put more trust in the judges. Then there needs to be more focus put onto the judges, and in terms of making sure that they're trusted by the competitors and that they're rewarded responsibly. Is that the right word?
I don't know what the word is, but there is a word out there.
Yeah,
put it in the comments if you know what it is. Yeah. Okay, so we've tried before with judging academies. We tried it with accreditations for judges. And we said to, is that one of the comments you're going to put?
No, I've done sport,
talked about it.
So I can cross that one out.
We started to a judging academy, and we always said that, okay, you'd have to pay your own way to come to a WFA competition, a Grand Slam competition. You'd have to sit there and judge along the side of it. Your scores wouldn't go to the competition, but the head judge afterwards would look at your scores and quiz you about the routines. And that would be your step into being an accreditation for it. Then we thought about doing judging academies, you know, and then we thought about all that, and we're thinking, is the sport of flair bartending, need a new word, is it big enough to put all that effort into it, you know? Because if they're doing all this effort, these judging academies, blah, blah, and then they're like, okay, yeah, come over here. Oh, just come and take your time. Come for free, you know, just come and do it. You know, and like you're saying, these guys tend to be older, they've got bigger responsibilities, and they've got all the stuff that they need to pay for and stuff, you know. It needs to be rewarded back that way. Do you think that the two ways of doing it, which is either you come across, you do it, I mean, we can get to the fact of where we need more budget for judges, come across, judge a competition, and then there's a existing head judge, you know, someone that can go through the scores. Is that enough to be accredited? Or do you think there needs to be a training? Watch this video. What's the difference between that? Give your score on that one. Why is that different to that one? You know, all of that kind of stuff.
I think it should be done online. Because like Manuel Weiser went through that whole process and invested in and became a judge for a little while.
Yeah.
But even when you become a judge, there's no guarantee that you're going to get invited to judge.
No, because the competitions, what are the budgets, and I'd rather use the local brand rep. The local brand rep who wants to sit on a judging panel. You know,
exactly.
Which we say no.
Yeah,
I've always said no to that, because then it's just...
Or his friends, you know, or this, they want to keep the budget of judging less, so they just invite people in the country, and if they don't always have very qualified people in that country to judge, then the judge... Anyway, that's why I think if it's done online, there can be a good list of questions put together that people can answer. And if they research it and find it online to find the answer, fine. At least they know the answer of those questions.
Yeah.
And then there's like a makeshift competition, I believe. I was thinking about this recently.
All right,
a pretend competition of like
eight. Pretend one?
Yeah, so you take 8 routines from different competitions.
Okay.
And you get a current panel of judges to judge all those.
Okay.
Okay, so you get the results for those 8 flair bartenders.
Yeah.
And then the online test is put to those judges.
Okay.
Judge these 8 competitors.
Okay.
And then their scores, are they do they reflect what the current judging pool is judging?
Okay.
You know, and if they don't, explain why. And if they come and go, well, actually, I don't think he was creative because I saw, you know, Sylvain Glatany do all these moves in 2005, and you're like, oh shit, you actually know more than other people.
Because we're always evolving.
Exactly.
There's not one person who's Mr. Head Judge that, like we said, there's no chat GBT of flair judges.
No.
Who knows everything. You know,
maybe there will be soon.
Yeah, there will be soon. We're working on it. Okay. So it is constantly evolving. But if you come back and say, oh, I don't know why I scored that, then that tells us everything we need to know. You are going to be a judge.
Exactly. And I think there's people out there who perhaps are not, you know, who are, what's the way to say this? Like, there's flair bartenders out there who perhaps want to get involved in judging but don't know how, or have been scared to, who I think would be really, really good at judging because they want to give it their all. They're like, well, I've done my time on stage. Yeah. I want to give back the same way all the other judges have and give my time and effort to basically judge competitions. And I think there's plenty of people out there who could probably do that.
The reason I was just looking at my phone, not to be rude, it's very off-putting, isn't it? When someone starts, you're talking, all of a sudden they just start going, oh, yeah, whatever, I'm just checking my phone. I was about, because I know we're 40 minutes in and we've got about 20 minutes to go, and I was just double checking to see if there's absolutely anything that's on the feed in regards to questions or anything like that, because we do want to get.
Let's ask your fantastic production team.
Is there any questions, guys? We got a bunch of people in the background.
Like, nah.
Is there anybody asked any questions so far? None. Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much for watching. That's very good.
There was a question on Instagram put.
Oh, there was.
Really lengthy, extensive one.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Go on.
Sicky, do you want to send it? Or I'll send it.
I'll have a look. I've got the Instagram here. We can open it up. Where was it? Was it a question or was it a comment? A comment. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
It was a question.
It was a comment. And who was it by? Lucas Leo Meyer. I'm trying to find it through all the notifications. It's a good job I know what I'm doing on there, doesn't it? Okay. 2 days left. Do you have any questions? Here we go. You see, Tom knows social media better than I do. He's about to shout into the microphone.
Hello.
Will it remain updated in there after the live? Oh, yeah, that's not. Quick question. Right.
It doesn't look very quick, does it?
Okay. Yes, it will be staying on live, but if you're watching this live, then you don't need to. And if you're not, then it's obvious it's already on the YouTube channel. Anyway.
Yeah.
Quick question. Do you believe there are any limitations to the physical possibilities in flair bartending? And if so, how far away do you think the current state of flair bartending is from these limitations? Put it in simple words, how much more crazy do you think it will go? Now, now then, I remember, and this is going back to my bartending, when I started bartending, which was middle of the 90s at some point. And I remember a bartender when they were doing... do you remember? Oh, they were up at Scruples and Rill, and there was those competitions happening there, Maloney's and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember one of the bartenders there. I'm not going to mention his name, and he said quite arrogantly, he said to me, "I think I've learnt everything I need to know in flair. I think I've got, and it was just bolting, and I think I've cracked this.
I've reached the top echelon.
Yeah, completed it. Game done.
Game over.
When's the next one?" I mean, and I was like, oh, right, okay. And at that point, mid-90s, we didn't really know how far we could go. And then you get to a position, how much farther can it go? But you're always living in the present, and you're thinking, what more can they go? But from our experience of seeing what's been done and what's being done at the moment, and way too many, there's a vast chasm in what's going on nowadays, it just proves that it will keep going.
Yeah.
And it will keep being pushed forward and forward. I mean, what do you think about that?
It's definitely slowed down. Because you think about it, flair started in the early 80s, as we know it, classical flair, how we know it today.
Yeah.
And then, it just spread around a little bit until the 90s, and then there was competitions that you would like, Scruples and Maloney's and that were coming up in the late 90s or what have you. And then there was this kind of discovery period where flair bartenders from sort of late 90s to 2010, or even now, you're just discovering new stalls, new taps, new bumps, new rolls. And there's so many flair bartenders and so many moves being discovered that it just went like that in terms of the craziness, And then Tomic came out in 2009, did a 3 shakers and 2 bottle routine. And that just, everyone was like, shit, now I need to start doing 3 shakers and 2 bottles, and then 3 shakers, 3 bottles, and then 5, 6, 7 tins and whatever. Yeah. And then I saw Michael Rennie last year did 8 tins and a bottle.
On the unicorn?
No.
Oh, just
a move. Yeah. Like this. So it's grown like this, but I think it's, it's not leveled out, but it's still going to go up. It's still going to go up because the natural thing of humans and people within something like juggling. Juggling's been around for God knows how many years, and they're still saying first guy to throw 11 balls 21 times or whatever, or first person to juggle however many the world record is. And someone will be like, well, what's the world record? 13. Well, I want to do 14. And then someone will spend the time to make, instead of 8 objects, 8 shakers in a bottle, 9 shakers in a bottle.
Yeah, which again, if you're just adding more objects to it,
there is a big but at the end.
Yeah, it's more objects doesn't necessarily mean it's better. For me, no, it doesn't. That's why sometimes when someone kicks out a bottle tin is king, and you kind of go, right, if you can be more super creative with it, that's what we want to see. I mean, things like you're looking at Eric Yu, which are Denny Bakiev, blind catches. Eric Yu with the snatches down here, which is kind of a blind move on it. You're looking at it and going, okay, there's more progression to be done in that area. Enrico Bertolini with the rolls. Keep them rolling down in the deep. It's great. Let's go clip that, actually, by the way. Think about that.
Can we have an opening sequence of bump and roll and then just have somebody doing some crazy bumps and then Enrico Bertolini doing his crazy roll?
Yeah, we could do, but we're 45 minutes in. We're a bit late for that one.
Episode 2.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, coming soon for all those 10 people that are watching live at the moment.
11.
11? Oh, brilliant.
Oliver Diaz.
3 of them. We're all sat there. Me. So Oliver Diaz has got a question. I'm going to come to you now. But there is, whether it's adding more objects or looking at stuff that, for example, there are the blind catches, which is incredibly hard and adding difficulty, and it's a straight arm, and it's a boom, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you've got the blind stuff, which is, of course, he's snatching it. There's no nest there. It's a boom. You've got to be...
It's hard. I've tried
You've got to be perfect. Yeah, exactly. So there is, you can go further with that, you know, but the further that you go with that and the more technical that you go with it and to be able to understand what's actually happening, again, comes back to the judging. So if you're going to go even further and further and further, then these judges need to be really on it, you know what's going on. So there's a question.
Hang on a second. There's another way you can look at that. Leo, whatever his name is, I can't remember. Sorry, Lucas. Like, if you take a flair bartender from 10 years, like if you take Tomic's routines or Marek's routines from 2010, 2011, and put it into a competition now, they'd still do well. I'm not saying they would win it, but they'd still do well. So the level of craziness has definitely leveled out, and exactly what you said. It shouldn't be about necessarily how crazy you can go, but how you can bring something new to push the world of flair in different directions. Yeah. Rather than just adding another shaker or adding another bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we got a question. I mean, we can talk about a bit more about
There's two questions.
There was two, my
God. We'll be here until 1 o'clock.
Okay, boom time. What we want, we'll be here at 12 because we're only here for an hour. Okay. So, first of all, drop us your favourite related questions. And Oliver Diak came back and said, we were scared to ask. I don't know why you were scared to ask. Are you scaring people? Are you scared?
I'm very scary.
He is scary, Tom. Okay. How do you feel about current competitors judging competitions when they're not competing? And I know why this question is coming.
You know or you don't know?
Well, I do know because I've always been quite vocal about it in regards to... I always think if you're currently competing in that year of Grand Slam competitions and you're going towards a leaderboard and points and stuff like that, and you're competing in the tour of it, for you to then miss out a competition and go and judge other competitors who are potentially on leaderboard, I don't think that's right. I think that as much as we're all there to support each other, you're a competitor, you've got an element of wanting to win with inside you, otherwise you wouldn't enter a competition, you know? And there's going to be that kind of, okay, all right, yeah.
If he comes in 7th, I'm in 5th.
Yeah, but you don't know.
It's subconscious.
But you might not. You might be a perfect individual and just be completely, I can put that to one side and judge it because I love it. You might think that, but the other 30 competitors might not have that thought. So to eliminate it, I say you can't do it, okay? But what's your thought on that? Do you think...
I think in that respect, Grand Slam, which is, you know, you gain it, like exactly what you said. For that, I completely agree. Okay. And I think there's just that element, or there's that grey area, which someone go, well, you know, he only got in 3rd because he judged that competition in whichever and blah, blah, blah. It's just an excuse that people can use as to why things turned out the way they did. Yeah. If it's an independent competition and the person is, you know, it's not involved in any kind of world Grand Slam or tour. Yeah. Have whoever you want. Okay. I'm fine with that, you know, because at the end of the day, I've competed, while I was competing, I've judged competitions. I've Roadhouse. When I used to compete there. Mm-hmm. And, again, if you think about it as a competitor, you've got nothing to win or lose by putting certain people in 1st or 2nd if there's no other repercussions from that competition.
Repercussions.
Repercussions.
Repercussions. Smart. Repercussions. Any more new words?
Dichotomy.
No, that's a real word. You allowed that one.
Repercussions. Repercussions.
Repercussions. Yeah. Repercussions. Repercussions.
Repercussions.
Repercussions. Somebody who's more intelligent than us two. Can we confirm that it's repercussions or repercussions?
So there's no, yeah, you know what I mean? So an individual competition like that, I think you get whoever you want. The thing is flair is such a small niche that if you can use current competitors in a fair way to judge your competitions, I think that's completely fine.
Okay, cool. You know? So if they're part of the Grand Slam leaderboard and the Grand Slam competitions, if you want to enter the Grand Slam for that year, then unfortunately you can't be considered for a judging, you know. I know that Oliver's asked him, I asked him this year, and I said, hey, do you want to come down and judge a Paulie? And his answer back to me was, no, I don't want to do it because I'm going to be entering some competitions. Fine. Great response. It's kind of what we're agreeing what we're doing. Oliver, I hope that answers your question. I don't know if you're going to comment below on it, but we shall see.
Scared to comment on the answer of the question, Oliver?
Okay. Are you scared? Okay, don't be scared. Tom is not scary. Right, let's see where we are.
Hi, Cheetan, here from Hi. Cheetan, there was no punctuation, so I read it wrong.
That's all right.
Hi, Cheetan. Hi, let's try again. Cheetan here from India. I want to know about flair bartending competition, how to prepare and how to build a routine.
Well then, that's a good segue, isn't it?
Log into episode 2. Oh yeah, it could be.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, of course it is.
Cool.
First of all, do your grading levels, but then when you want to get to a certain level, so this is what I would suggest, but you are probably better suited to ask it for it. If you're going to start, if you're based in India, go and see the guys at Flairology. If you've got the guys there, in fact, they might be part of the team there, but go and do if you're just starting out, learn your grading levels, get on the board, learn your yellow, orange, green, however far you want to take that journey, yeah? Then when you get to a certain level, now I don't know because I'm not part of the can't even say it, let alone be part of it. Pro Flair group, as the kind of title indicates, Pro Flair. You're not taking on people, you're not teaching people how to begin in Flair.
No.
You're taking them on once they've got to a certain level. Is that right?
No, unfortunately, it's not.
All right. So it's not Pro Flair.
It's a group, it's a community-based subscription group that anyone can join.
Yeah.
Who wants to become a Pro Flair bartender. Yeah. And what I mean by Pro Flair bartender is you actually start earning money from your skills.
Yeah.
Because we all know that there's hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of flair bartenders out there who can flair and do a whole bunch of cool moves.
There's definitely 18,771, which is the current, users on the WFA website. So I know that.
So there's at least 18,000 flair bartenders out there.
I think you've got a lot of followers. They might not be interested in flair, but yeah, exactly.
But a very, very small amount of people are actually making any kind of money from flair bartending. I'm not saying it's the be all and end all to make money from flair bartending, but obviously competitions is one way, using flair behind the bar to earn tips, doing shows and performances and events and everything else like this.
Yeah.
So the Pro Flair group is generally based around helping flair bartenders who are currently at a good level or complete beginners to develop their flair skills.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily teaching different moves every single time we speak, but giving the tools and the knowledge to help them develop their own skills. Okay. Although this year we're going to be doing a lot more like live practicing together on videos.
Would you say it's a bit like a mentorship?
You got it. It is a mentorship. It is a mentorship. We've got a WhatsApp group. They can ask questions about whether it's a flair move, how to build a routine. If they're going to enter a competition, I give them feedback on their routines before they go to a competition, help with music, help with absolutely anything that they need when it comes to anything flair bar, even if it's cocktails. Yeah. They're like, I've got this cocktail. What do you think, guys?
And how do they join it? How do they do it? How does it cost?
TomDyerBartender.com. It's £35 a month. We have 2 meetings a month. And we'll be, it's been going since 2023.
Cool.
And go check it out.
Go check it out. No, it's good because I know one of the guys that were part of the Pro Flair group got in touch with Siki because you said he wanted to do his grading levels. He wanted to get some kind of certificate.
Alfredo Manzano.
Yeah.
Hard worker.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it just shows because he wants a certificate. He wants to progress his flair journey. He wants it his arsenal and his CV for when he goes out there in the world, be it to get a better job at a better place, be it to start pushing whether he wants to do private events and go whatever he wants to do he's learned from the mentorship from yourself to help push his career forward. So the two combined can work very well,
One way we helped him, because it's not just me giving advice, there's other people in the group who are fairly experienced and they give feedback as well. Okay. So it's like a community base. It's not just like, hey, listen to me because I'm telling you everything,
Do it like me. I would create 1,000 Tommy D's. Okay.
So everybody helps, but he was organising a competition last year and I said, well, why don't you speak to Fine and School? Maybe they'll be interested in supporting you. So put him in touch with Fine and School, and they don't think the competition worked out, but now he has a contact down there to build the competition for next time.
Yeah, and not everything that you do within business and anything you do in life always works out. It'd be fucking great if it did.
It would be fantastic.
It would be really great if it did. We'd be certainly sat in a lot better studio if it did. But this one's really, really good.
Can I just jump?
Just saying that to Dan as he's over there together. Yeah.
in his fucking hat and scarf.
Yeah, he's there just going, fuck you.
But there's something else to add to that is if you look at someone like Akimba, who's been pushing flair training online for a long time, and I can't remember the others, but there's a few more people out there doing this kind of thing. And going back to what you were saying about judging and competitors coming up and saying, hey, can you give me some advice about my routine? one thing which Akimbo does, and one thing which I'm going to be launching this year is, and I recommend competitors to go and ask other people, is coaching. Is to get someone to help coach you on your routines. You know, don't just think you know all the answers, because when I started, I learned from Neil Garner, from you, from Neil Lowry, from Nicholas, from Christian, from everybody. I just picked up information wherever I could to improve my routines. And I think we're at a stage now where it's so big and it's growing so much, and people are looking at the rules and the scoring system a lot more than what they used to, that if you want to get better, find someone to help coach you, or at least give you honest, direct feedback about your routine beforehand, and listen to what they have to say.
Listen, yeah, be open to suggestions on it. You don't have to take everything on board. You don't have to agree with all of it, but there'll be some nuggets of information that will come back on it. But be open to it.
The worst thing is when you show your moves to friends, like, oh yeah, it's really good, mate. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, because they're mates. They're
useless.
Completely
useless.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have someone to turn around and go, no, that's shit. Try and do something else, or use different music, or you don't look very good doing that. So,
okay, all right, cool. So we're getting almost to the end of our podcast to go back. I like the way you're ticking it off at the same time. We started to write a whole load of notes of what we're going to be talking about. So, but we'll think about if you guys have got anything topics that you'd like us to cover in future podcasts. I don't know how often we're going to be doing them. You're back here, what, once every 2 months?
March.
You're back in March?
Yes.
Should we do one in March?
Why not?
Let's do one in March, okay? So we'll do one in March. If you've got any comments, anything that you'd like to see, any topics you'd like us to cover, anything at all for us to talk about, then let us know, you know. And if there's any of, we might be able to get some guests on every once in a while.
Maybe a neon sign.
I was going to get a neon sign.
Yeah.
I've kind of run this as close to the bone as I can because the budget on this was zero. You know, so we've had to cobble equipment together from all manner of stuff. This is stuff from the events company, you know.
These are real bricks, by the way, right?
These are real bricks,
Look,
okay.
flexible.
Yeah, don't push them over top. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes, if we get good engagement on it, and we'll see how we push forwards with it. I mean, I think we can more or less... Should we end up with anything you want to finish off with, Tom?
I mean, we could probably go on for a couple of days to talk about judging.
We have spent many years, I think, talking about flair, and mainly after competitions, after a few beverages. Yeah, there's been some very interesting conversations that we've had about it. But I think in regards to judging, I hope it's helped clear up a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean,
hope so.
Comments below, let us know if you agree, if you don't agree. Whether you've got a different view on it, you know, whether you've got anyone that is an ex-player bartender that would be interested, you know, get in touch. You don't have to be an ex-player bartender though, do you? You don't have to be.
But it helps.
Anyone who's involved, it does help, yeah. Anyone who's involved in the industry that's got an understanding of flair that would like to come forward, you know, and thinks will be a good judge for it. And also get in touch also. Church, that's my word. Church.
Repercussions,
church and spart. Almost sounds like fart. Anyway.
It sounds like fart, does.
It does sound like fart. Okay, a splart. Oh, sounds like
this has gone
not a good fart.
This has gone on a tangent now.
It has. Okay, right. I think we're ending. I don't think there's any more questions. Is there? If there's anybody else?
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
We'd love to see more of this concept with more people also. That sounds like it. Oliver, did you want to come up and do it? We might get some guests in the future. We are based up in Aylesbury. That's where we're doing it from. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to get some people in the future. Maybe we'll tie it in with the first Collinson competition.
Ooh, when is that?
Dates to be announced very soon.
Okay.
We got tentative dates in, but they're coming out very, very soon.
What's the tentative dates?
Shall I tell you?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a thing. Let's have a look.
While you're looking for that, I think that the main takeaway from this that I would like to give to the flair bartenders is, remember that the judges are there, 99.9% of them, to do the best job that they possibly can. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone's not always going to agree. Otherwise, it would just be boring. And trust that they're giving you the best scores that they possibly can. And if once you finish your competition, if you don't agree with the results, find someone within your area, region, a professional to help you understand that better. Don't always just go to the same judges, because they've been asked by the other 29 people in the competition as well.
Okay, cool. So just to finish off, proposed dates for Collinson. Proposed dates: 25th of March, 27th of May, 16th of September, and the 11th of November as the final. That was just blowing the microphone. Okay, right. I think we're tied up. I think we're all good. Thank you very much, Tommy D, in the place to be. Break. That's two Scuba doing the Lou doing the poo. We're going to shake hands.
Oh, I've got
I know I was going to fist bump you.
Yeah, thanks. That was awkward.
It was awkward. I don't think we've ever fist bumped, have we? Have we ever fist bumped before? Let me feel your hands. Huge, just like his feet. Okay, right. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers.
It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bump and roll.
Bump and roll.